Consideration of minutes we do not have, so I'm not even going to bother with that. And here comes Mike, so Mike will be here also. Hello, Mike.
Just sign in and stuff.
Yeah, you just sign your name in there.
Do we need a motion to postpone till?
Yeah, till Pam can take a look at the video, right, Pam?
Oh, yes, apparently.
So, yeah, it's just one of those things, right? Oh, David too. David, if you can sign in too.
Sign in.
A motion to postpone. I move to postpone the minutes of
You
May.
injured knee.
All in favor to postponing the minutes of May 2nd until the next meeting?
Aye.
Aye. Okay, thank you. Adam. Coordinators reports.
Yes,
Welcome, Adam. Yes, hello.
Thank you.
Who are you?
My name is Adam McCune, and I am the PEG Access Coordinator as of June 1st of this year for GTV.
And if everybody had a chance
There's copies there.
of the, oh yes, report. There's copies. He's brought reports, so if people want to pass them around. And Adam had to actually got an article in the Union Leader regarding himself, and yeah,
That was nicely done.
very nicely done. I think we're lucky to have him. So good. All right, Adam, go ahead.
I have a rather lengthy coordinator's report, so I apologize if it's a little too long, but there's been a lot of stuff that has happened, and I want to have everybody on the same page as far as what's been going on. So I'll just read it. It's been a busy 40 days. I started my time as a GTV coordinator with the task of cleaning the studios and cleaning the channels. By day 4, I was finally starting to get a feel for the place. By then, I had implemented a new zoning scheme for our carousel bulletin system. In the past, we had a simple one bulletin at a time system in place. And carousel is actually very powerful. It can handle much more. There's a new home for our schedule. It's for both channels. There's the weather, there's a logo, and we're still able to utilize the bulletins as we did before for town and community events. Look is cleaner and more professional, and I kind of do some tweaking pretty much every week to it. Some of the things have been, the times of the schedule and stuff were a little bit off, but we've kind of got it to a nice, happy place.
Hold up 1 second. If anybody has questions regarding this, just make a note of it, and we'll talk about it after, because to stop them and keep going is just... But I apologize for stopping. Why don't you keep going?
You were saying.
That was the only stop of the evening.
Next on my list is a little cleaning of the government channel. I've been able to take a look at the meetings change the look of the meetings, updating the graphics that appear before, during, and during committee recess. It's a simple change, but it kind of shapes a great deal of the things that we do. Staff has been also instructed to take medium close-up shots of people from the chest up when they are speaking. Those who aren't speaking are to be left off camera as a practice. It makes it easier to see who is speaking and what they're saying. When meetings are scheduled to start, we start cablecasting. So most of the time, there's a delay from the start of the meeting, from when we start airing it, and when it actually starts. Like tonight, we're about 5 minutes late. So in that place, we have there's a gap for the viewers. So when we stream or when you watch a channel live for the meetings, you may not realize that the meeting hasn't officially started yet. So we have a slide up there so that'll tell you that it's coming up next. So it's not our fault, basically, that there's no audio. I've done some tweaking with the audio. 90% of our shows and meetings were over-modulated in the past. There's a practice of bumping the audio to the absolute max, and that practice has stopped. I've turned down the oral modulators in the studio as well. This is really the best we can hope the channel to sound until Comcast gets the new modulators installed. I have solved a mystery of sorts. We had school board meetings with no audio, and I'll make that part short. Basically, it was a problem in the workflow, and the DVDs were imported because that's how we do that there. And Cablecast did not like the audio codec. So it would say it was sampled at 0 hertz, which it just doesn't play the audio then. So we just don't use a certain program to import it, and it's all fine. There's going to be, once again, some music playing on the channels. Major licensing bodies, it's BMI, ASCAP, and CSAC, have a standing agreement with the major cable providers to allow their entire catalog for free for public performance on public access channels, but it's on channels only, so we can't stream, we can't put it on demand. For now, that's not really an issue anyway. Meetings are now turned around more quickly. Within 24 hours, I expect to have meetings post-produced for Cablecast, rebroadcast, and on demand on the town website. Right now, the schedule runs to ensure a repeat of last night's meeting by 2 p.m. the next day. Scheduling has taken a few turns. I want to take some time to thank Barbara Duty for her time over the past months. Well, she's been responsible.
I didn't wear my boots.
We're supposed to wait till after.
Oh, okay.
You can write the comments on the side and then say it at the end. She's been responsible for scheduling as a volunteer, which is really an extraordinary expectation to lay on such an individual. It's a tough task, though, and it's a task that a coordinator should be doing. Nonetheless, I feel Barbara's contribution should be noted. She's reliable and dependable, and I want to thank her for her help. Since coming on board, I have taken over the scheduling, first for Channel 2 as a necessity to schedule meetings in short order, and we've also started scheduling shows and meetings overnight. In the past, midnight to 9 a.m. was left as a blank chunk of time. I've eliminated that and given a heavy rotation of local shows in that place. Channel 16 now has some new features of our scheduling. We have what I call GTV Prime Time, which airs between 7 p.m. and 9 p.m. Monday through Thursday. It's for producers of local shows, especially those produced in our studio. They'll enjoy a dedicated time slot during these 16 half-hour slots. It gives them an opportunity to say that Cooking with Charles is on at 7 during GTV Primetime. It's regularity, it's a branded block of shows, and it's a nice feather in the cap and way for saying thank you for using our resources to our volunteers and our producers. In the future, these times could be easily expanded, but for now, our current producers are getting at least 2 plays during that slot for the whole week. We're also now airing long blocks of religious programming on Sunday mornings. Between 6 a.m. and 2 p.m., we have our religious services block. Any show that is religious in nature can air during this time. In addition, local shows will air outside of this block. In the past, there's been a practice to air religious programs, especially church services, from outside of Goffstown. While it isn't a problem, I also feel it isn't fair that those who produce shows or church services and are in the community, and at the same time, I'm not willing to turn somebody away for content. So this is kind of a happy middle. We'll still be playing those shows, but they're in a dedicated 8-hour block, and they usually get 2 times at least in that. Also, if a show is produced locally, we still air that as a local show, regardless of content. So if we have a religious show, it's going to play there, but it's also going to play as a regular show during the week. And the same is going to go for any church services that are local, brought in locally, that are Goffstown. I spent some time blocking out our scheduling for both channels. We have dedicated time slots to everything that's produced by GTV, whether it's a meeting or a studio show. In the future, I want that schedule published in the paper, and having it uniform will help that. I want this to be truly Goffstown TV. Most of the content I would like to see derived from here. We do have, however, some opportunities to do some fun things in the public side. I'd like to put on some public domain movies played at certain spots during the week. You'd be surprised how much content's out there. I mean, there's a lot. We could have a Western block, a late-night horror, sci-fi block, and even potential for some old Saturday morning cartoons. I see it as a way to get attention, while at the same time just using a small weekend chunk of our programming time during the week. I've already started putting some of the pieces together, and I'm not going to implement any of that until I have it all ready. We also have started airing some older episodes of public shows with the permission from the producers. We want to encourage them to come back in and see the changes and to utilize what's here and what will be here. I think it's important when you're looking ahead to never to forget where you came from. So we've taken selected episodes and added a bar to the left and underneath the shows that viewers are watching. It says GTV Classic on it. Barbara has taken over doing the editing of these. My hope is that by the end of the summer there will be more editing opportunities for her as a way to get her in the loop again and involved with the operations. She expressed an interest in doing some video editing, so this is a good way for her to get her feet wet. Tapings at the studios have continued at the same pace. Dave has transitioned from a jack of all trades to specializing in scheduling and taping public shows at the studio. He also deserves some kudos for stringing together programs while there was no coordinator. This was a tough job on 20 hours a week, but he made it work. We are working out all the kinks, by the way, in the TriCaster, and when the new cameras come, which I'll get to that, level of production will shift up. The studio is also undergoing some streamlining. With the new TriCaster, we do have the ability to record live to tape. So the beginning, middle, and end of the show produced will be recorded all at once. It isn't possible for all the shows, but it's a goal to shoot for, and we can expect this after the upgrades that I'll discuss in a little bit. I have some drafts of pieces of paperwork I'd like to implement for producers. I feel it's important that anyone coming in to use our space should understand the rules. And there's been some questions of commercialism in some of our shows. While our shows allow for a simple promotional consideration provided by at the end, they don't allow for any more. And as far as commercials are concerned, I feel that the buck stops here. Producers submitting outside produced shows with commercials will flat out have them refused, and staff is not responsible for editing them. I have written some of those drafts of the paperwork I want the producers using. I didn't include them in this because it's long enough as it is. Producer compliance form. This form will be signed by every person dropping off a show or producing a show, stating that they know and understand the rules. We will also verify residency when the signing of this form. Current producers will need to fill out this form out, but only one time. It's something that we need to have on file. Without a piece of paper declaring these producers know the rules, I feel that there are no teeth for enforcement. An episode request form. We also need paperwork for each show that's produced. What day to start airing, title of the episode, etc. should be up to the producer of the show, and we should be able to access that in-house. We also have to have a way to contact the producer or contact information ready if there's a comment or concern from the public. This is where we'll find a phone number or email address that can be utilized for that purpose. Each time a show is made in the studio or one is dropped off, this form has to be filled out every episode. Some other forms. We currently have a form for people to fill out when they check out equipment, though it could be updated. We can also use just a release form for guests. It'd be handy for them to have, I think. A parent waiver for minors, and maybe some paperwork for anything else that comes out or is produced for the school. Just stating that they know what the content is and that they're responsible for it. Our policies and procedures could also use a little bit of updating. It appears that there have been some updates in the past, but I feel some of the practices that are in place are either not being implemented or could use some reworking to make them flow better. I've looked it over and I feel there's actually instances where they contradict one another in places. For now, it's a problem to note and to fix at a later date. I've taken the time to mend some fences with the school district. In the past, there was little or no relationship between GTV and the school. I've spoken with several key people in the high school and administration who understand that a full-time coordinator means better utilization of the space for this town and school. With some help from Gary Gerolaman from the school, I have taken the initiative in taping, editing, and cablecasting the graduation and 8th grade step-up day for Goffstown. And actually last night there was also a recital that Kurt McDermott taped, and he's going to be dropping off, so we're kind of working with him on this too. These shows are just the start of more content and cooperation with, for, and by the school. At the same time, there is a giant roadblock in any future plans myself or the school might have for utilizing the GTV space. Right now, alternative suspension exists in our facilities until the end of the school day. The public staff and ultimately the school can't possibly use the space during the course of that day if that practice continues. I've mentioned this to the school, and I know there's some there that do feel the same way. I feel it's critical to bring GTV to the next level. Without getting those students out of that space during that time, I won't be able to be of much assistance to the school unless it's after hours. Since I've started, there's been a lot of prioritizing of what GTV needs. There's a one-time influx of money that you guys are well aware of from Comcast. Fantastic. My charge to ensure it's spent in the most useful and wise way possible. So here's a list of some needed improvements. I just kind of prioritize them, not necessarily in this order, but they're all there. For the studio, we need some robotic cameras that can be controlled by staff in the studio space in the control room. Floor-based lighting, an adjustment to the existing lighting grid, which I don't think the grid there is bad. I just think it's aimed in the wrong spots and it's kind of pieced together a little bit. Splitting the studio into 2 usable stages, one green screen, one without. Somebody comes in off the street, wants to do a show, we have to set up a whole entire background for them. But if we had a space in one corner where it was set up as a stage, they could come in, do a one-off show, which is going to happen, especially when we're getting into political season. And then the green screen would also still be there. For the head end, we need new modulators, which is coming. I'd like to have a video-on-demand server and streaming server, or at least something reworked. A second carousel unit, that's the part that gives our bulletins out there, to split up 16 and 22 announcements. I was looking at it, it does say that we have 2 licenses, but I don't think we have 2 ways of putting it out. So right now, that same bulletin system that goes out there goes for both channels, which is a problem. If we wanted to promote a local show, I don't think it's really great to be doing that on the government channel, because some of those could be political in nature, and if we don't put the ones that are political in nature, then why aren't we putting the ones that are political in nature? So it can cause a problem. I'd like to have that split up so we have one for each. And also an updated cable cast. For government meetings, we need all new cameras, we need a new switcher, and we need to move the existing cameras, switching unit, and the titler into the secondary meeting room, which is across the hall. Last night we had Sewer Commission and CMAC in there, and this is the first time that I've actually seen a meeting that, since I've came on board, that was taped there. They look and sound terrible, and there's really nothing we can do about it until we change that. And I want to change that. But we could take what we have in here and use it over there. For remote equipment, I'd like to get a switcher, cameras, and live sound set up. Most of the time this will be used for the school board, but it can also be used for other purposes like graduations, some town events, games, etc. Further on down the road, I would like to change out some of the software used for public editing. Before I came here, I had never used Sony Vegas, but my initial assumption hasn't changed. To be frank, it's kind of terrible. With any piece of software, there's a learning curve, but with this one, I feel the curve is far removed from other pieces of software, so in that way, it kills intuition. Honestly, I think BASIC is better for video editing. I would rather switch to Premiere Elements or iMovie, both of which are capable but very basic. And if someone has an interest in video editing, per se, and wants to take it beyond that, the controls and features are not far off from what they would have learned in the basic versions of either of those pieces of software, and we can provide the next step. If we stick with Sony Vegas, you are stuck with Sony Vegas, is the way I kind of feel. My goal is also to have interchangeable parts. This breeds familiarity and also helps us out in a pinch. I plan on using, or one of the plans is that I might use, the same cameras and switcher in the studio, meeting rooms, and live kit. This should mean that any employee can step in and use any setup. It'll also mean if a camera breaks, we could use another one for our kit, in our kits to help out in the meantime. I'm still in the process of documenting our inventory, as tedious as it is necessary. We need to have a record of each piece of our equipment. I have some parts already documented. Brian Ray from the town IT department actually started a list before I came aboard. There's been a bit of outreach since I started. I've spoken with a few town departments who could better utilize the channels, as well as some community and nonprofit organizations. Community TV is a good fit for some of these places, and I feel the need to extend our services enough to them to come back and utilize us as a resource so we in turn can get content. I'll be working with some of them firsthand to show them how we can help them and how they can use what is available to them to help their cause. In the future, getting the public in and using what is available in all aspects is important to what I do, not just using our studio space, but in other ways. Media has changed, democratized in a sense, and that is at the core of what public access is all about. Someone could just as easily do a studio presentation as check out our cameras and document something important to them. I have some ideas on how to better utilize these resources and make the end product simple, beautiful, useful, and truly buy-in of our community. With staff, I've started what I believe is a good habit. Every Thursday, I ask that everyone on staff sends me an email with the highlights and lowlights from the week. I want to know what went right, what they heard from the public, and what might have broke. On Fridays, I send out an email then to everyone detailing what has happened during the week. I include the concerns of the employees as well as what's happening on the government channel and in the studio. Communication is really important, and I've worked in places, some places that specialize in communication who didn't have good internal communication or no internal communication. It leads to employees who are uninformed, out of the loop, and ultimately unhappy. I want to ensure that that doesn't happen. I also want to make sure that if someone approaches one of our meeting tapers and asks them about something in our public studio, or one of the shows, that employee at least has been given the knowledge to answer the question. At the end of the day, it doesn't matter if you're running a Fortune 500 company making pizza or a humble government employee who produces television shows in the spirit of the First Amendment. The heart of what we do is customer service. There was an article, as you mentioned, in the Goffstown News, nicely written article, and it lets people get to know me. I have an extensive media background covering pretty much all aspects, print, radio, television. I have a passion for access and video production. I love photography, videography, telling a story, and my enthusiasm is contagious when I get started on a meaningful project. I hope I have the opportunity to share that more with this board and the public. My first 40 days have been wonderful. I feel lucky to have landed here. I feel ready for the challenges that face me and you. I feel encouraged and supported by those of you on the board, town hall, and the school. I feel video production is digital literacy, so now it's time to roll up the sleeves, start the next chapter, and get to work. Literally the next chapter.
Humble city council.
How many pages in the next chapter be?
I promise that my next coordinator's report won't be this long.
Questions? I've got some, but anybody want to jump in there?
I got one real quick, and it's really not a question. And you're looking for, in the future, our schedule to be published in the paper.
Mhm.
I see the Bedford schedule published in
Yep.
the Bedford Bulletin.
Yeah.
Yep.
And I like looking at it. I mean, it doesn't mean that I'm like, that's what I'd like to see in the Goffstown News. I don't know if that's something that you would consider.
That's exactly what I'm hoping to do.
Yeah, we've, as a board, we've talked about doing that, but it was very difficult until we had set times.
We had
for people.
some set times,
So-
somebody to.
So
take
if
the
that's the case, and
Set
we get
times
that set up.
or publishing it and having it ready 2 weeks in advance, which is
Exactly.
almost impossible with government meetings especially.
Yeah, it's usually just for public access government
Right.
meetings. You can be generic. You know that every Monday is a.
But I do
select
have it,
meeting.
I do have it set up so that they're blocked. This took a lot of work actually for the government meetings. I have it set up so that every meeting will replay 12 times before that next meeting happens. So the selectmen play 12 times a week. Cable TV will play 12 times a month. And that's guaranteed. So it's like I plug it in and it's just going to be there. But then I have to, if there's gaps, then I'll put them in more often, for certain meetings. So, but I have that skeleton, so we could publish that with this.
I think that'll be a good step to get the public involved, if they know it's there more.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, it says our schedule, but it's also marketing. It's,
Says we're here.
in their face all the time. Yep, absolutely.
You had the comment about turning the volume down to make it sound better. We've had lots of complaints about the video streaming and video on demand. If you play it on your computer or laptop or something, you can't even hear it with the sound all the way up to
Well,
the max.
that's what I mentioned before the meeting. The sewer commission I was watching before I came here, and I couldn't hear it at all.
You watched it
wasn't
on a
nothing.
laptop or you watched it
TV.
on TV?
Yeah.
That's across the hall.
Yeah, there was no
can't.
sound. There was just like a buzz noise of some sort, like a low bass hum.
I'll take a look at it, but it's. I mean, were they talking or were they
Yeah,
just
they were
sitting
talking.
there?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, they were no, they were just sitting there going like this, and I was like, "Wow, there's nobody talking."
Well, I say that because they do that sometimes. They'll be looking at a piece of paper and
No,
I'll
one
look
of the
up at the
ladies was
channel going,
speaking
"What's
to-
happening?"
One of the ladies was talking to one of the gentlemen there, and I watched her for about 5 minutes. I didn't hear any audio for 5
Okay,
minutes.
I'll take a look at that one in particular, but it is across the hall.
Right. Audio across the hall is different than the issue I was talking about. I'm talking about meetings in here.
Right.
Where if you listen on a laptop with laptop speakers, you can't even hear the meeting because the sound volume's so long.
Right.
And I'm sure that's going to be fixed when we get the new modulators, but I'm wondering if that isn't why the volume.
That's
was
not
turned
gonna fix
It really isn't gonna, the modulators won't affect that at all. Because what we do, the workflow that we do for on-demand videos is we take them and we have to convert them to a different format so they're smaller so we can FTP them. So when we convert them, we can boost the audio of that. My main focus has been what's going on the channel right now. And I wanted to get that fixed before we have video on demand boosted. We can do that, but I just want to make sure it's all set first.
One thing I do suggest with the new modulators is that they have audio DAs that they have knobs in the front where you can control the up and down. They also have bass built-in pads and amplifiers. It's like $400. I would put one into each modulator
Okay.
because of the fact that you might get a meeting that's a little low, but this device will actually bring it up. You might have
Gotcha.
a meeting that might be just a little bit high because somebody didn't hear right in their headphones. It'll bring it down for you a little bit. It helps.
Is that manual or is it like compression?
It's a
Like-
compression one, but you can also manually bring it up if you
Okay.
want to. But it has
Automatic.
it built in. Yeah. So just an idea. I'll email you the ones we have.
Get the good ones.
You can. Well, it's not that expensive. They're only like $300. They're worth it though because it's something that can help with the overmodulation, over broadcasting. So.
Okay.
anyways, different.
I think they'll prefer hearing. They wouldn't care the picture's blurry.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? If you,
Oh, I totally agree. If you have bad audio, I don't care how good the picture is. If you
You'll
can't
never
hear
watch it.
Yeah. So
I
exactly,
don't,
yeah.
I honestly, maybe I shouldn't say this as being the person that I am in this position, but I don't know who could watch a school board meeting right now. I really don't. You can't hear some of them. It's one shot, and it's the camera in the back. It's one of the things that, I want to change the setup that we have over there because you can't hear or see anything. Who's going to sit through that?
And I think just in philosophy-wise, when we, as the coordinator, you really don't pick government is more important than school, and school is more important than public access. They're all equally important. And if you look at this town, it's pretty good equipment in here, pretty good microphones, and the public access has a full studio with new equipment coming on, but school hasn't gotten anything for their meetings. So there has to be a little bit more, attention built into that because it's still content. It's still something that should be important, even though, there is a separate school and there is a separate town. We're all still town members, and everything is equally important, so.
With
At
these
this-
requests, how fast can they be turned around?
What kind of requests?
The equipment?
Say, fix the school, how fast can that be
It moves
turned
at the speed of
around?
government.
Yeah, I have some questions about that regarding that in a second, if you could just hold on with that one question.
No problem.
And why can't a school meet here?
No, they choose not to.
They just-
That is their decision.
That's their decision
They
not to
have,
meet.
they believe
Their
that
school,
this
their
is
school.
the selectmen's room and their room is in the school, and that's.
That's
Right.
There is
But you
media
just said
center,
we're all
right?
one town.
We are one town, that's my belief and that's my feeling, but that's not theirs, so.
Right.
But it's,
At the same time, if I'm going to invest any money in what's going on in the school board, that money has to be utilized for something else as well.
well, it's.
So
we talked
it
about
has
the
to be a
travel.
mobile kit that I can take out and that I can use somewhere else. I wouldn't invest in a meeting room.
Have you actually looked at any mobile systems?
I actually did today,
Oh,
as
that's
a matter of fact.
coincidence.
I was down in
Been
Boston
waiting.
today looking at the updated Sony Anycast Touch, which looks like a giant Nintendo DS, is basically what it looks like. Don't think it's a right fit.
Yeah, if you guys ever saw the first version of the Anycast, it looks like a suitcase, a small suitcase that it pops open like this, and it's got two screens here, and then you have camera control, stuff that you really wouldn't use. And they ran about $18,000. They were a little pricey. I don't know what they're running now.
You can buy that version for about $7,000. The new version is $20,000 to start, but if you're an early adopter, as they said, which is, I took that as you're going to beta test the buggy software that we're giving you. It'd be 16, but I could buy 3 TriCasters for that. I could buy 2 live streams for that, so I don't think I want to go that route. But it was a fruitful trip because I got to see it in person, and actually, this thing isn't actually in production yet. So this was a prototype that Sony was willing to demo to a bunch of people like myself, and it was great to see it hands-on, but like at the start of it, the guy was very nervous about it because he's like, there are some bugs. I just got to tell you there's some bugs in it, but I wasn't. It's actually very impressive, but it's almost too impressive for what we want.
Any other questions? David?
A clarification question. You mentioned that religious shows will be repeated at least twice currently, and you also said that local shows will be repeated at least twice during the prime time. If it's a local religious show, it will be shown at least 4 times in that regard?
It could be, yeah. I think that, I mean, if it's a religious show and it's local, I mean, really, I don't really care what the content is. I'm not saying that to be, terse or anything, but it's got to play just like the other shows would. Considering we have a dedicated 8-hour block now for religious programming, I could not play those local shows in that just to play the other ones, but that would almost be counterintuitive. So they do get maybe a couple extra plays.
Well,
yeah.
that was going to be my question to follow up. Is there any way to make it sure that every week the same amount of the programs for each person? Because if one person says my show's playing 4 times and this person's playing 8 times, that shows technical favoritism to another
Sure.
show. So is there any way that you might be able to make an internal coordinator's policy that would say every show plays at 8 times, not going to dictate which times they are, but every show will play at 8 times?
Yeah, I could absolutely do that. It wouldn't take much. This is also just the skeleton of the schedule. So I hang a lot of meat, which is usually the local shows, sparsed in between. So I have it blocked out so there's spaces where there's 4 hours where there's no programming in this skeleton of the schedule, and then I go in and place programming in.
And I think that's only regards to local programming. Not anybody who brings it outside. I could care if it plays once. That's your judgment. But I
Right.
think as a board, we should be showing local programming.
I favor local programming.
Yeah.
If somebody produces it here or brings it to me firsthand and they're a Goffstown resident, that's what they want Goffstown TV to look like. So that's a priority. But if somebody outside brings in a church service, and I'm not going to say no because they're a nonprofit, but they're also going to be played in this area, which is common sense to me. I think it makes good sense, and it's also another way to promote what we're doing.
It's a minor technicality, but Goffstown resident or town employee.
Or school employee.
Or school. Well, I kind of meant school in town.
Right. Or nonprofits too, correct? I mean, they can, if they're serving the town.
As long as they reside in.
Okay. Yeah.
Don, did you have a question?
Yeah, on the episode request form, in addition to having them actually fill out a paper, can they include a title or part of the title as to who to contact so that the viewer can see directly, I want to contact Joe Blow at 603, da 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 da,
On the actual show?
on the actual show.
Like a finished page, finished graphic.
Yeah, finished graphics. You know, if you have any comments, again, they might be good, they might be
For more
bad.
info, call.
For more,
blah, blah,
yeah,
blah.
something like that.
You know,
because-
I don't think I'm going to need to include that on the form, but if they wanted to do that as part of their show, all they got to do is talk to
Well,
Dave
no,
and put it into it.
But I think you should, I don't want to say mandate it, but that just alleviates them having to contact you and, okay, here's the information. It's there on the screen, watch it, and I can write down the number. It's just cutting down a little.
He can't mandate that at the end of the show. So he can he can ask them if we can put that at the end of the show.
Right.
He can't mandate.
That's their show.
That's their content.
And if somebody contacts me, that's part of my job is to,
We do the same. We have the same issues. People call us up and say, "What is this junk show? You know, who's
Right.
this person?" And we give them their phone number, and you can call them. So that's just part of the. That's the way it works. That's just the nature of the business.
and it isn't passing the buck. That's just
Yeah,
how it's,
that's
that's how
how
it
you
should
have
be
to
set
do
up,
it.
yeah.
David was starting to put, it's only your opinion and no one on GTV or
Disclaimers.
anybody else or whatever.
Yep.
Oh yeah.
Yeah,
Oh,
he had
absolutely.
started- yeah.
That's
They've
you
been
def.
say-
You
We've
should have
been
that.
doing that on both the front and the back, and so
Yep.
people know that you contact the
Oh,
show.
that's a norm. That's an
Yeah,
industry
yeah.
norm. You always put a disclaimer at
Yep.
the back, things like that. So, any more questions?
What about the website? The Goffstown website, getting that updated.
I don't know.
You have some, haven't you?
The on the town website,
Yeah.
or the separate website.
Your
that
job
used to
posting's
be
still up for unemployment, too.
there. That one isn't my call.
Yeah,
I-
the GTV page is on the town website.
The GTV page has been updated.
It has been updated,
Mhm.
okay.
In fact, if you go there, you'll see our schedule as it would appear on TV appears on the side. And if you go to it used to say, I can't remember what it used to say, but I've changed to community bulletins now. It'll actually have what we're playing for bulletins in that part of it. So it has been updated. And Dick's contact information has been found on each and every page. There was like 3 different times where he had it. He's like, you guys, it's still up there. So it has been changed. There's a lot of pages on that.
Yeah.
I think there's too many. I think it can be simplified. But I've kind of got a good base.
Okay.
So it's like, most of it's, edited down or at least scrubbed a little bit. But it hasn't completely changed. But yeah, it's on there. It's on page 8 of this.
Any other questions?
Has the staffing been updated as well on the website? Do you still have, last I looked, the other gentleman that used to work here in the back, I think he was still listed as still working here.
Andrew?
Yeah.
No, it's just me and Dave on there right now.
Yeah, because that's why I asked, because I'm like, well, last time I looked at it,
Yeah.
which I'm like, and I know it was like recently, but you've only been here a month and a half, 2 months, so.
Right. It's
Like week 2 you were here, I looked at it.
yeah. I didn't take a look at it until a couple weeks ago.
Yeah.
But it's just Dave and I right now for that. I don't have the meeting tapers on there right now, but that'll happen too. But Andrew's no longer on there.
You left last October.
Would you consider, we tried it in the past, but would you consider getting like a Facebook page or something for Goffstown? Because I love Nashua. I join or I like all their pages throughout
Yep.
the state of New Hampshire. So, because the content that you can find out is excellent. So
I
I didn't
have-
know if Goffstown if you would consider that as the coordinator.
I've actually asked about that already. There are a couple things I have to do, which I got to work out.
Not to interrupt, but there's a procedure the selectman would like you to fill out what the purpose of your page is
Sure.
going to be, who's in charge of the page. And so he's just got to write that up and submit it. And my guess is the selectman won't have a problem with that.
Yeah.
Another question. This report, is this being sent to the selectmen also? Can it be? Just to give them a quick little update?
He has Sue on it, but
That doesn't
Not
mean
the
that,
same
I'm
thing?
asking Neil to ask Sue.
I would be very surprised if Sue didn't include this in her staff.
If she did, that's great. If she hadn't,
I'll mention it to her
thank
as
you.
well.
I appreciate it.
I want to thank Neil too, by the
All
way.
the offices do a staff report to Sue, and those all go to the selectmen, so This wouldn't be any different.
We all know Neil walks on water. We got it.
I didn't put it in this soliloquy here, but he's been instrumental in everything, obviously.
But this is what'll go also online when I do the minutes. It'll be part of our minutes, so. it's
Yeah, so
kinda
they can
nice.
sit there and read the whole thing.
That's correct. You read it anyways.
Exactly. David?
I have a question in regards to paperwork. For the episode request form, as it stands now, for every single episode of a show, people have to fill out a form. Is there any way to consolidate it for series, like Cooking with Charles or the like? If it's a regular series, to have a form where each episode could have an extra line where people could fill out the time and maybe have initialed by staff, so you don't have to have like 500 pages for it.
I want to have a record of every show that's going in. That way, it's covering what I'm doing, and it also covers what somebody is coming in for. And if I have it for each episode, because if I had one piece of paper and Cooking with Charles has 300 episodes, I mean, I'm not going to be able to fit that on one piece of paper. I also want to know what each one was called, so there's a record of it. It's just good practice, I think.
The reason why that would be it's a good thing is because if Charles calls up and says, hey, you know what, I would love the episode, I can't remember off the top of my head, the episode where I cooked chicken cordon bleu and it was this and that. He wrote down the episode, said, episode
Right.
chicken cordon bleu on May 18th, 2012. Even though he really shouldn't, but he's going to go back and, Adam's going to go back and say, okay, yeah, it was on May 18th. I have it over here. We have it in the file. Pulls it out, puts it in, and there you go. It kind of, I totally understand where he's coming
Because
with
right
trying
now,
to
when
get
I
the
ask, can I get my last 3 shows?
Right.
I don't know what I cooked. I'm thinking, God, I don't know what dates they're at. I don't know what I cooked. I don't know what I called.
How long do you keep the shows?
That's a good question. Right now,
Keep it 6 weeks.
Okay.
And the reason why it's a legal situation. You don't want to keep the public access shows forever.
Right.
The public access producers can keep their own copies, and if they want to bring them in later on, they can bring them in. We give copies every single time a person does a show. So if they want to replay it, they just bring it back to DVD and re-encode it. But if you keep them on and there's an issue 3 months down the line, having it there causes an issue where, if you don't have the show, then you're not involved in the process, and it's we don't have the show anymore.
Right.
You're gonna have to go to the producer.
I have an archive of some shows from back in 2006.
I'm just saying that's something you might want to look at and discuss yourself and Sue and Neil. That might be a town policy of figuring out what you want to do. I don't know if the board is really in that type of policy making, but it's just I don't know how long you want to keep public access shows, meetings and everything like that. That's town property.
Right.
You can keep that forever. But
One of the things when I was cleaning, there were a lot of shows and the DVDs and everything. And I kept saying, like, when I was throwing them out, and there were a few people who were like, well, should we throw this out? I'm like, yes, because we are not a warehouse. We are not here to warehouse their things for them. We're not here to remind people to come pick it up. If they didn't pick it up 2 years ago, then they didn't pick it up. And it's gone.
Are you suggesting that there's a liability issue if he keeps them?
Yep. Because if somebody the way it works is if somebody calls up Adam and wants a copy of a public access show, Adam actually technically can't give it to them. He has to give the phone number to the producer. The producer then calls up GTV and says, hey, yes, so-and-so can have a copy. And then when he does that, he can give a copy of the show because technically Adam and Goffstown do not own that show.
Right.
So they can't make duplications of that show. If Adam does not have a copy of that show anymore after 8 weeks and somebody calls up and says, hey, this politician was talking about me, someone told me they saw it on a rerun or they saw it online 8 weeks ago, and they call up Adam and say, hey, I want a copy, Adam can easily say, I don't have a copy. If you want a copy, you need to go to the producer now. That totally negates GTV out of
See,
the situation.
I think there's an easier way around that to me, because I think there's a lot of value in keeping shows on our system. If Charles has a show from 3 years ago that was a Christmas episode, and he wants to replay that, it's real easy for us to have that. But if it's a policy where we just say a blanket statement that we don't make copies of public shows at all.
Yeah.
The problem is that if a person gets a lawyer to write up a God's sakes, help me out, subpoena of the show, and you own it, and you have to give it to them. But if you don't have it, then you don't have to give it to them.
Now, wait
I've
a
gone
minute.
through this, so you need to understand. I'm doing this from
And
experience.
I believe you. Manchester is a different animal than Goffstown.
I agree, but you never know. Crazies live in every town, every city. They are everywhere. I'm just telling you. And luckily, I don't have any right now, but I've had them.
Well, and part of our town does have your zip code, so. I mean.
What was I going to say? David archives these things, and so they are off, they're out of the file kind of thing.
But they're still
Nobody-
property of GTV.
So what if,
Still available.
They're still there. Like, if you wanted to get hold of them, Adam could get a hold of it, and that's the whole thing, is if it's not there. This is the discussion, we're getting way off
Yeah.
topic, and this
Yeah.
will give you another
Right,
meeting.
right.
Mike
Don't
might-
care right now, but,
We should just, yeah.
It's
yeah,
just a
that's-
thought.
just think about it, that's all I'm saying.
okay.
One more question. What's your policy on producing sports programs like football, baseball?
I'd love to have
Please.
them.
Please.
Yeah. Yes, please.
Policy, bring them in.
Yeah. I think actually it'd be a really easy way, if something that ended up in the article that was in the newspaper, if somebody is taping their child's game and they didn't make a bunch of comments right off camera, they can easily bring that in, and we could air that on the channel. And we could, do whatever we needed to with it. But it's an easy way for somebody to come in and help out, and an easy way for us to get very good, very awesome local content.
Or would we have permission to record such games? I mean, with the photographic consent and the like.
Well, that was going to be my question later
Aaron,
on.
it's the
Is there a form that is given out by the school district that gives permission to? Well, first of all, we don't need permission because it's a football game. And football games
There's no
are-
expectation of
is
privacy.
Is a public event. If you create a soccer game, football game, little league event, you can tape those things. But is there a form that's given out to the school district that says, okay, my child can be video photographed, cannot be? There is.
My daughter I filled
Yeah.
one out for my daughter.
Well, that was in Manchester.
There
I
is.
know we do in Manchester, but I'm talking about Goffstown.
There is. I know there is.
There you go.
But you have crazies in Manchester.
No, we got crazies. There's different crazies, but that's
Keep your Manchester crazies out of Goffstown.
That's right. But no,
Some of us moved here.
yeah, exactly. This guy, I went from Manchester to here. I brought it. But the those
form
forms.
is universal.
Manchester
Manchester
didn't have it except for like 10 years.
they
The
have to
former
do that.
director had to make a big issue about it to have it put in there in Manchester because for a long time it wasn't in there.
There's a question about that actually with the graduation that I'm airing. And I did that at the request of the school. So to me, that's them saying, okay, the other part of that is graduation could also be considered a public event, the way I see it. Anybody can come in there. I don't think you have an expectation of privacy when you have your name published in the paper for everybody who graduated.
Yes.
But, I mean, that's only my opinion. But there does need to be there needs to be a point person, I think, for educational content on the school. And whether that comes from the school or it comes from us asking the school, hey, what do we do with this? Somebody needs to sign off on that. So when we go and cover graduation, the school is saying, yes, we understand that, we're asking you to do this, and it's kind of like a public show. They're responsible for it at that point.
All right. Any more questions? Because that's going to involve questions that I have in a minute. Any
Yeah,
other-
I just had a question or a comment on a prior discussion. From what I understand, you can actually file a request form to get old movies. You just address it to NSA, and they'll have everything.
Yeah. There's definitely it's eminent domain. What is it? What did you say?
Public domain.
Public domain.
He said NSA, because
NSA.
get the program.
Whatever, people.
You're just not on top of this type of stuff, are you?
No,
It's
I'm not.
it's past 20 minutes.
That's right. I'm
Yeah.
I'm usually on my car all the way home by now. But anyways, any more questions? Any more funny questions? Anybody else
I
have?
just want to make a statement and say, I really, really enjoyed the GTV Classics. Watching Steve Pascucci paint is wonderful. I wish he would come back. I'm trying to get him to do it.
Oh, are you too?
Oh, yes.
There's about 4 of us now.
We're not doing very well, are we?
No.
Well, that was actually kind of part of the idea there, is that we knew we had a archive of this content, but I didn't talk to, but Dave talked to Steve and said, yeah, go ahead and play it. But I wanted to make sure that people knew that this was something that was from before.
Yeah.
Partly because I didn't know if there's going to be any audio issues with these files, and so it's kind of, I don't want to say an excuse, but it's kind of like saying,
wasn't
there was one.
Email you?
Yes, you did. I think that one's fixed, though. I think I think I know what's going on with that one.
All right. Modulators from Comcast. Have we heard back from when they're going to give it to us? All right.
I
will
did,
give Brian Christensen a call
I
tomorrow.
did touch base with Brian.
Did.
Just to say hi and said, hey, we're going to have a conversation pretty soon. Oh, yeah. So that's where that is right now.
So you're in touch, for the record, I'll just say you're in touch with
Yeah, I was in touch with Brian.
Yes, the the movies. We used to do that. It's a great idea.
Yeah.
Didn't have any more space left to do that anymore, so we stopped. But they
Mhm.
are awesome, and you can get some great movies for that.
I do have to be careful with some of them, especially the cartoons,
Oh, okay.
because there are some cartoons. If you go on archive.org, there's a whole bevy of them, but I just have to make sure that they're appropriate.
All right, going back to the parent waivers.
Some of those older cartoons
Yeah,
are pretty
exactly.
Yeah, they're pretty rough.
Yeah. They were great though. But all right, so.
My mom didn't let me watch them evidently. I
Oh,
have no idea what you guys
oh
talking
God,
about.
they're great. Tom and Jerry. I wouldn't want my kids watch that. What I watched, but Tom and Jerry were great. Look at that. All right, the parent waivers. We need to find out about that. So you think they do? I would love to know that they actually do,
Mhm.
because if we're going to tape stuff at the schools,
I know my
in the schools.
kids in the Goffstown School District,
And you
they
have
have
to
to do
sign
it.
one.
Yep.
Oh, they,
Perfect,
okay.
good. Regarding who's responsible, I'm going to give the superintendent a call, superintendent's office a call, and I'm going to say I would love for
Okay.
you to sit in front of the school board just to give them an update and kind of make put a face to the name and
Yes.
say, hey, what's going on here, and this is what I'd like to do, and everything like that. I would like you to bring up that issue and that point of, we'd love to have a contact. I know Gary's our representative right now. Gary sometimes can't make it.
Yep.
Because he's busy. So we would love to have a person that you can meet. If maybe you can meet Gary during the day or stuff like that. I don't know exactly how it works, but the principal there at the Goffstown High School, he's amazing. He's
Mhm.
great. So he might be the person that could be a person that might be able to sign off on some of
Sure.
the content there. So, but I'm going to give them a call. Have they hired a new superintendent?
Not yet.
I was just going to bring that up, that I think they're in between superintendents. And
Yeah, they said they're gonna wait
I know
until
Stacy
They have
Buckley
they have
left.
an interim with, Bulky?
But they were going to do an interim, and I think that fell through.
Well, I might give the chair of the school board a call just to say, hey, you know what, I would love for Adam to sit in front of you guys and kind of give you guys a heads
Yeah,
up. What's going
that'd be great. And there is one issue that's going to come up with them with how I want to do it, because I want to set up the audio kind of like this, how it is in front of us. But that takes time, and they do a lot of their non-public afterwards in that room. So I don't know how they're going to help us accommodate that, because they don't want to have our guy in the back while they're doing their non-public. So I don't know if there's another place they can go or how that would work, and I'd have to pleasantly ask them that.
Usually they do it at the end, but sometimes they do it in the middle. So
A
that
couple
is
of
when
times
they
they
want
tried doing it before, but that, what is it, the school board and the school committee or something? The school committee meets before the school board does, and so they
Usually
had to
financial
start
review
from
meets
before.
Oh, okay. All right, yeah, I didn't know that. The internal suspension
Yes.
issue.
That's interesting.
That's going to be that's been an issue for a long time, and I think that really needs to be brought up at that school board meeting, and it also
Yeah.
needs to be discussed with the principal. I think I can understand with the situation, but if we keep being asked to do stuff with the students, because that seems to be the outcry of the video teacher, and rightfully so, he deserves to say that, and he needs to say, hey, you know what, we need to use that more. We can't do it if that's happening there. If they can find another spot for that or a classroom, that's great, and move that out, and we can utilize that during the day. So it's got to be a give and take situation. If they want us
Yes.
to do something, they got to take that out of there.
Absolutely.
So that might be a discussion that needs to be brought up to the school board.
I've talked with the principal just briefly, just said hi, but I've spoken with, I believe, yes, 4 different people on staff at the school who have spoken with the principal about this issue, because there's somebody that he works with. And I'm just trying to kind of put that in the ear of the school that, can we get these kids out of here, you know? Hey, that's the only air-conditioned room in the whole building, get them out. You know?
But the issue you're going to run into, though, and I'm just going to say this, and I wholeheartedly would agree with them if they do bring this up, and I'm sure once I say it, they're going to. But you can't have public access shows during school hours.
No,
So, yeah,
absolutely not.
That's never going to happen. Because
That's-
of liability issues in general.
Of course not. That isn't what it would be for. I can't.
I know you'd mentioned about public and
Right.
trying to get there.
If we have a problem with the server right now, like if the channel goes off the air and it's the middle of the school day, I can't get in there. I can't even get in there. I'm not supposed to be in there because the public is not supposed to see those kids. So I can't go in there. The school can't go in there because the kids aren't supposed to be mingling because they're actually alternative to out-of-school suspension. So it becomes an issue for them, becomes a big issue for us. If they're out of there, I can go in there if there's a problem. I can help,
School.
the
Video
teachers in
program.
there, and they can be making content for the channels. I mean, it's just win-win-win. I don't know. My hope would be, I want to push for it for this coming school year, but that's going to be short order.
I most likely don't think it's going to happen for the school year, but it's something that at least we can get going in the works, and kind of people can work towards finding a room in that building where these kids can go.
And I know they're going to have a few less students in a couple of years coming into the high school, so maybe it does lessen next year. Not this coming year, but the year after.
Another question is, I'm liking the list. I think it's great, but I'm looking at this list, and I'm going to be honest with you, just rough numbers, you ain't got enough money.
Mm-hmm.
You don't have enough money. So is there this is a lot of money. So I'm just wondering, is there a did you list it in the priority that you think it's important, or is there specific stuff that you're going to be saying, hey, I absolutely need this? Or
It isn't really prioritized top to bottom.
Mm-hmm.
I guess each part of those is more or less top to bottom, because there are things that I think really need to bring up right away, but there's other things that could wait. The good news is that we're halfway into the year, so we're rounding that corner again, and the budget comes up, and we have the revolving fund. So what I want to do is I want to get the public studio up to speed, and I want to get this room up to speed, and then I want to, after that, get the mobile kit ready for the school board, because the school board, the school season will take off there in the fall, and I hope that maybe by the end of this year, start of next year, all those things are done. I put down some rough numbers. I think I can do it. It isn't going to be Taj Mahal equipment at all, but it is going to be very usable, very serviceable equipment.
what did you want to do in this room?
Sony pan-tilt zoom cameras. They're EVI something, I can't remember.
How many?
3 or 4, and I think that we could, if we wanted to, we could get away with 3 and then 1 camera in the back corner as a wide shot that will never move. So that could be anything, really. I want to have them, because it's obviously easier to get right now anyway, cameras that can be HD ready. Not that it's an issue, but it's just spending money on standard definition is silly these days. You can get them cheap, but they're soft. They're really soft. I've worked with them before. Actually, Anycast with some regular standard definition Sony cameras. Cameras were awful, and I don't want to go that route. So I would rather go up, and they're roughly about $2,000 a piece for the ones I was looking at. And the TriCaster is, $5,000 or $6,000. So you put that together, and suddenly the room upgraded for $12,000 doesn't sound too bad. But then again, we do have a lot of things that need it, so, that money will go quick.
And then you think about moving these cameras to the room over?
Yes.
Now, are you going to do all this work yourself?
Maybe.
Yeah.
Might happen. I think that we're lucky enough to have Neil and Brian on staff, too. So thanks for making me spill those beans. Yeah.
Do you think one video person can run 2 meetings with multiple cameras?
No, but I would be more comfortable with just one wide shot in there that's usable with good audio too, and lower thirds. So I guess if we had a situation where we had multiple meetings, actually what happened last night with 3 meetings here.
Yeah, how often does that happen?
It doesn't happen often, I don't think, but how that happens, is that really serving anybody? I don't know, but it's rough on our end. It's a burden on staff at our end. I'll tell you, I was up till midnight last night getting all the meetings ready, and then I came into the studio at 7:45 this morning to get the meetings to go on demand, and then I ran down to Boston, and when I came back, I had to do part of that again. So it's like it was 3 meetings in one night, and it just, it was a lot. But I guess having 2 people in there wouldn't be an issue if they're both in headphones and working.
Hang on. One more related to that. It would be helpful if you were adding microphones and so forth to make that other one better, to have the ability to move equipment back and forth.
Mm-hmm.
When they do something like the all boards meeting, they have a ton of people in here, and right now you only have this many microphones. Whereas I know for the all boards meeting, they would have liked to have maybe an extra 6 microphones.
Sure. You could put 2 people per microphone, no problem, if they were set up a little different. I don't like them kind of all the way back. We can't hear anything. I do this, you can't hear me, you know. And in fact, the microphones that are sitting there, they're kind of not as good when you get this far back. So there may be a different practice of how we do that. And if you set them up right, I mean, you can have 2 people to a microphone. It's just a matter of the people being aware that the microphone is there and not pushing it to the side when they start talking.
There's a wonderful invention that I've utilized a couple of times called Velcro. And if you Velcro them down,
yes,
you do not touch them. They understand not to move them.
The other
you
thing,
just put a little Velcro down there. On the table and you put
the other thing that I did actually at my last position in Merrimack was I put a night light on a remote switch on the chairperson. So when you couldn't hear it, sit there and go on and off on that switch. So this little light's going on and off, and you could hear it switch too. So the chairperson would say, "Can you please, speak into the microphone or whatever?"
Good idea.
Because if there's no audio, it's not the board's fault; it's my fault. It doesn't matter if it's the board's fault. Actually, and part of that too, I think that there needs to be some educating the boards as to how to utilize the meeting space too. I'd like to actually put together a video for the boards so that anybody who comes in who's a new board member will get this and they can use this. And here's how you use the meeting space.
How about we do this? Videos are great, but you give them a video and they might not watch it. How about before the first time that they're elected, their first meeting, you come in and do a 15-minute instructional before the beginning of the meeting on how properly to do this. And if you
Good, there's a lot of meetings. Every year.
Only one time. One time, the first one. That's it.
Every year,
and that might help you out. Just that kind of 15 minutes, and just to say, hey, this is how you want to do it.
And they get to meet you too.
Yes,
that's
true.
And you get the FaceTime.
So, if you could give us a list of what you think specifically, in order.
Okay.
I think it would be kind of nice, just so we have an idea of where you're thinking and how you're going. That would kind of help us out. I agree with you on the iMovie situation. There's nothing better than having an editing system built in a computer that you can already use. And if you want to use Excel and
as a user of Sony Vegas, there's nothing more infuriating than that.
Yeah. So
where is the razor blade tool in that thing? I don't understand it.
So I definitely I'm just my personal opinion, but that's of course up to you to decide what you want to do. I think iMovie is absolutely awesome. Then you can have one that's a Final Cut that's off to the side that people want to advance to that next one. There you
Actually, I talked with Apple this week, thinking in that vein. As long as you are the owner of the computer, there is no end to the licensing agreement with purchases made in the App Store. So Final Cut Pro 10, which is not preferred, I know, but is very much like iMovie in a lot of ways, is then licensed for every computer that the town would own that's a Mac. So if we had a few editing suites, it's $300 and it's every single one that you have.
There you go.
I thought that was a pretty good deal.
And I think, was that the last thing I had? Yeah, that's it. So, that's it for anybody else have another question? Finance.
Oh, that's right. There's more to this meeting.
As you probably all know, the town's installing a new finance system this year.
Okay.
And the finance staff has been extremely busy working on training on the new system and setting it up for budget season and coding the lines and consolidating lines and so forth. So they've been spending, like all last week in training sessions and trying to spend the whole week doing their jobs, and they've been straight out. So I was hoping to have a nice budget sheet to hand out to all you guys today, and I don't.
Okay. Do you have a report, but just no report?
No,
Okay.
no.
We're doing okay?
We're doing fine. We're not in the red. And I was hoping to have a budget sheet because Adam needs it as well. So he's looking at all the stuff he wants to buy.
Yep, I've asked him.
Know how much money for the rest of the year.
Have we received the
yes.
$45,000 payment or
Yes.
whatever amount it is, plus the modulators? We have to pay for the modulators, but okay.
Right.
All right. School info, no one's here. Action items, I don't think we have any. Anybody? No? New business?
Yeah, I'd like to just kind of apologize for not being here for the past whatever months and stuff like that because of babysitting, and after watching a couple young kids, 2.5 and 8 months and stuff like that, I was just wiped at the end of the day, not realizing what it's like to be a mother.
It's not easy.
It ain't easy.
Please, dads work much harder than mothers. Let's stop right now.
So I just wanted to,
Seriously, just kidding.
I just wanted to apologize
You
for
don't
my.
care people are watching. do you? Anyway.
Before people,
Sorry
then
to
I'm gonna
interrupt
get mad.
Two of them are dads.
Exactly. I got half the audience. So,
Are you sure he's done?
I think that's what. Oh,
That's
sorry.
it? That's
Okay.
it?
Yeah,
What's
slow
this
down.
non-public?
That's there for every meeting, just in case something ever
No,
comes up.
I thought you had something in particular.
No, he just said, it's
no,
just
but-
possible.
It's possible non-public
But she
session.
thought you actually might have something.
No, it's every agenda I've ever made that we've given out to this board has had that at the
Well,
bottom.
what about, we're still in limbo.
What do you mean?
Oh, no. Nope.
We've never been, I never got a note saying, I ain't here no more, or I'm here.
Oh.
You know, the contracts, the contracts.
David was approved as a full-time member the last time. He's all set. You were approved as
When
a.
did that happen?
That happened like 2 months ago.
Is it in the
I
minutes
haven't
for
seen
the?
a piece of paper
Yeah.
saying so.
All right. Did you get anything right now? Did you come and sign a form?
Oh, yes, I did, and I got sworn in.
Yeah.
Oh, you
she's-
did?
Yeah, he's all set.
He's
'Cause
on
I
top-
got
he's
an
on
email.
top of it,
I got an
Bob.
email and I sent it to David. I believe I sent it to David, or I talked to him anyways, telling him to hey, go in there and.
So
you're all
David's
set.
now full-time and Charles is
Full time.
Full-time.
Yeah. He was full time.
Barb
is still
an
alternate.
alternate.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah. Everything's good. Everybody's
Oh.
fine. Jim Pingree is no longer a member, so
Right,
that's
right,
that's.
right.
Did that just
I
expire on
understood
its
It
own?
pretty much expired on
Yeah.
itself.
Expired.
That was the way that they Sue wanted us to go, which
Yep.
is where
Okay.
we went. So.
Okay.
I do have a clarification before someone rushes to adjourn. For the financial report, you asked about receiving 45,000 or 40,000?
I think it was 45,000.
Okay.
I think it was
Payment from,
Isn't it 65,000?
Yes, but that's right. 65,000. 20 of it's for the modulators that we have.
so,
to pay.
but
Five.
that wasn't,
Whatever. You guys, seriously.
I don't know.
These numbers are etched in our
You
brains.
know what?
fun.
It was money that was given during on the.
We have
contract
received
money.
the Comcast money.
Thank you, that's really what I wanted to know.
Exactly. Like, guys, this is stuff like 4 months ago. I'm lucky I remember things from like a week ago. So 4 months ago was good. So.
You're lucky I'm not sensitive.
Yeah.
Motion to adjourn?
Yes, please. Anybody? 1, 2.
Second.
All in favor?
Yeah.
Thank you.
Boy,